Anthem of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, home of our basic science campus, and the national anthem of the United States, location of our clinical sciences program. Remain standing for the invocation.
family and friends who have supported them all along the way, with gratitude for faculty and staff for teaching them and leading them in the way that they should go. We're also grateful for all who have made possible today and all the work and dedication that has gone in. Now we give it all to you, and we ask that you be glorified in all we say and do today. In your name we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. On behalf of Trinity Medical Sciences University, its Board of Trustees, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our graduates, their family members, our faculty, dignitaries, and other special guests of Trinity Medical Sciences University. And of course, I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to everyone watching online. We have a live broadcast today. We also have a special guest that's watching, the Governor General of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Sir Frederick Ballantyne. He wanted to, I'm sure you'd appreciate that. He wanted me to extend a warm welcome to you graduates and to thank you and honor you. And so I'm doing that on his behalf. Thank you. This event would not be possible without the support of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our board, our founders, our shareholders. We welcome you, and we thank you for being the foundation of our success, which is represented by the graduates we see here today. I would like to begin by introducing the members of the platform party. Would each of you please stand for a moment when I introduce you? Dr. J. Patrick O'Neill, our commencement speaker. Dr. Daniel Eller, providing the invocation and benediction. Dr. Douglas Skelton, Chancellor, Trinity Medical Sciences University. Dr. Linda Adkisson, Provost and Dean, Trinity Medical Sciences University. Dr. Mark Zubro, Senior Associate Dean of Clinical Clerkships, Trinity Medical Sciences University. Dr. Jamil Ibrahim, Associate Professor of Medicine, Trinity School of Medicine. Dr. Cornelius Musara, Clinical Chair and Associate Professor of Surgery. Dr. Francis Jack Edwards, Associate Dean of Foreign Missions and Student Affairs. Now I'd like to recognize some of our distinguished guests in the audience. Please stand briefly when I call your name. Mr. Earl Maynor of Tampa, Florida, one of our founders. Welcome, Earl. Dr. Bob Moon and his wife, Dolores. Bob is a member of our Board of Trustees. Mr. Tommy Seminara. Tommy's been a big supporter of Trinity, helped us in our founding. Thank you, Tommy. Mr. Terry Coleman. Terry was a Georgia congressman for many years and the past Speaker of the House here in Georgia and head of the Appropriations Committee. Thank you, Terry. I'd like to also thank a few other people. Dr. Brent Hollers for managing the online live streaming. Thank you, Brent. One last but not least, our Roswell staff who are responsible for managing this event. All Trinity staff members, please stand. Let's give them a round of applause. Special thanks to Dr. Michael Miller, Sally Wilson, Michelle Brown, and Josh Wilson. Graduates, I want to personally thank each of you for being a part of our Trinity family. You are a source of pride for all of us. We will follow your career with great anticipation. Your achievement here today has enhanced the legacy of our medical school and influenced the lives of many of your classmates, as well as future Trinity students. You are an inspiration for us to continue to improve all facets of our medical education program, not only for future students, but to make you proud of your connection to Trinity throughout your career. Through you, we are touching the lives of thousands, and through you, we are living our dream of making a difference in the world through medical education. Thank you all for being here today. The conferring of an honorary degree is the school's highest honor and tribute, and is therefore reserved for those individuals who distinguish themselves both in their profession and in their personal lives. For the presentation of our honorary degree recipient, I now ask our Chancellor, Dr. Douglas Skelton, to please come forward.
President Wilson, Dean Atkinson, faculty and administrators, honored guests, members of the class of 2019, and their family and friends. It is an honor and a privilege for me today to introduce a former colleague and longtime friend, Dr. Pat O'Neill, to you. Dr. O'Neill's career, like mine, started a number of years ago. He was at Davidson, medical school at Tulane, graduate program in Oregon, and then he returned to the DeKalb Medical Center to head their emergency medical service, which he headed for over about 29, 30 years. During that time, some 35 or 40 years ago, he had an event occur that shaped his life and shaped medical care in the state of Georgia and in the rest of the country in a way. He had before him in the emergency room a 2-year-old child run over during an accident. A child that died because, in Dr. O'Neill's judgment, Georgia had no trauma system at that time. And a trauma system with a surgeon available 24/7 would have saved that child. Dr. O'Neill is a leader. When leaders are impacted with events like that, they grieve about the event, but many of them, like Dr. O'Neill, resolve to do something about it. What he did, after 29 to 30 years running the emergency medical services in DeKalb, covering the Olympics for emergency preparedness, he decided to move from the individual medical care of patients in the emergency room to the bigger systems of care. And he joined the state public health program in 2002. Over his 17 years working in public health, from which he recently retired, he had the following responsibilities. I want you to listen to these. You'll probably be fatigued when you hear all the things that Dr. O'Neill was involved in. In addition to responsibility for our state's emergency medical service and trauma systems, he was responsible for injury prevention, for environmental health, for infectious diseases, for chronic diseases, for immunizations, for refugee health, for public health volunteer programs, Office of Pharmacy, and the Georgia Public Health Laboratories. In fact, he only recently received from the Georgia Public Health Association the Sellers-McCrone Award for improving the public health laboratories of the state of Georgia. Over this time as well, Dr. O'Neill participated in Hurricane Katrina and Rita with me and many others in planning for G8 when it occurred in St. Simons at Sea Island, for receiving Haiti refugees in Atlanta and placing them in Georgia after the earthquake in Haiti. So he has been involved in developing for our state an outstanding trauma system, emergency medical services throughout the state. And toward the end of his career, he has worked with our state medical association to develop what's called a medical reserve corps, where physicians and nurses and public health professionals and just any volunteer that wants to help can join the Georgia Medical Reserve Corps. Other states are developing as well. And then when bad things happen, like hurricanes hitting Georgia or Alabama, then you can call on the Medical Reserve Corps of your state and other states to come and help you in that time of need. So Trinity School of Medicine, and me particularly, we are particularly pleased to honor Dr. Patrick J. O'Neill. Dr. O'Neill, will you please join me at the lectern?
Be it known that Dr. J. Patrick O'Neill, having been recommended by the Board of Trustees of Trinity Medical Sciences University for the honorary degree Doctor of Science in recognition of his personal and professional contributions to the betterment of all humanity, by the authority of the Board of Trustees vested in me as president, I hereby confer upon Dr. J. Patrick O'Neill the honorary degree of Doctor of Science, awarded with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Dr. J. Patrick O'Neill is now our newest degree recipient.
Class of 2019, it's my pleasure to present your commencement speaker, Dr. J. Patrick O'Neill.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure I recognize myself from those comments. I think Dr. Skelton has a very nice way of expressing things. Another way of looking at my career is I've sort of been a jack of all trades, master of none. I've been through probably 5 different medical careers, and I could talk to you about, as graduates, about my first. I was a flight surgeon in Vietnam. I flew F-100s, very schizophrenic. I would fly in the mornings for about 3 hours, dropping bombs. Then I'd come back and patch people up for about 12 hours. Strange existence, but it was an exciting time. I did family medicine for a while, and that was extremely satisfying, and I hope some of you will go into family medicine. I also did pediatric oncology for a while. That was a bit depressing, and I didn't stay too long in that. Emergency medicine was wonderful. I really enjoyed the excitement of it, the never-ending changes that came through the emergency department. But you know, the area that I have probably had the greatest satisfaction in is public health for the last 17 years. And I'm not going to try to convince the graduates to go into public health. You would remember anything I said today anyway because you're too excited. But what I do want to do is highlight some things about public health that I hope you will, whatever your plans are from here, because this is a beginning, as all commencements are, I hope that you will look to see, is there not an intersection between what you're going to be doing and public health? Even if you're not going directly into public health, there are intersections. And some of those are professional, but many of them are personal. On the personal side, I'd like to see a show of hands with the graduates. Have any of you, by raising your hand, show me, have any of you been to a restaurant while you've been here in Atlanta? Who do you think assures the safety of that food? Public health, environmental specialists. That's a personal thing where there's an intersection all the time. In many states, public health has that responsibility for safe water. Here in Georgia, that belongs to another state agency if it's city water, but if it's well water, it belongs to public health. Go figure. Septic tank placement to assure that there's not pollution into groundwater, that's a public health responsibility. So if any of you happen to live in an area where you do not have a connection to city sewers, you may be on a septic tank. So there may be another intersection. As I look at those intersections, I think they become progressively more important. And what I'd like to do, just very briefly, is to hit on some of the things that the Georgia Department of Public Health has focused on for the last 8-9 years. We actually became a standalone department in 2011, reporting directly to the governor. Our first commissioner, Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald, was fantastic. She created an amazing department. And she set priorities for us, which I continued when I became commissioner. And her first priority was one that you may say, what in the heck does that have to do with medicine? Her first priority was early brain development. Now, why is that so critically important? I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of the studies that Dr. Jack Shonkoff's group did at Harvard. If not, look them up. They are amazing. What Shonkoff showed was that babies, perhaps beginning as early as the last trimester of pregnancy, who are exposed to language, not just words, but language that conveys caring and concern and love. Those babies, by 2 years of age, have developed neural pathways that babies that don't have that language don't develop. And if you start that language activity after age 2, it doesn't develop. You've got that 2-year window to do that. You know what happens with those kids that have those neural pathways? By 3rd grade, they're reading on grade level. They're no longer learning to read, they're reading to learn. And they graduate. And if we are ever going to really address the issue of disparity and equity in healthcare, this is where we can do it. We can stop that vicious cycle of poverty by stimulating the growth of kids so that they graduate and become productive. You know, in public health, we talk a lot about social determinants of health. And when I was a practicing physician, I had no idea what that meant. I thought when I sewed up a laceration in the emergency department, wrote a prescription, gave the tetanus shot, sent the patient on their way, everything was finished. I never gave thought to the fact that that person might not have a ride home, that that person might not have enough money to get the prescription filled. Those social determinants make all the difference in the world of our success as physicians. And yet I was so tunnel visioned, I didn't see it back then. Public health makes me see that, makes me address those issues that prevent good outcomes in the patients that we're trying to treat. And more importantly, helps me understand how we can prevent some of those things from happening in the first place. So I think that early brain development is critical, and I hope no matter what your field of medicine is that you go into, that you will realize that there are going to be social determinants that really tell whether or not you succeed. And just doing the procedure or the strategy or giving the medication is not enough. You've got to address those social determinants. You've got to address issues with anxiety, with depression, with homelessness, with lack of adequate nutrition, with obesity because these folks are eating foods that are not fresh fruits and vegetables. You have to address those things, even if you're a neurosurgeon. So think about that intersection there. Public health, whatever field, and this importance of stopping the cycle of poverty, lack of access to care, lack of access to proper food, all the things that confound our greatest goal, which is good outcomes. Another thing I want to mention to you that you may not think about, and I say these things because a lot of folks, even those of you at Trinity, and I think you probably are unique because of Dr. Skelton, I know he has inculcated a lot of public health principles into each of you. But still, you probably don't have a full understanding of the breadth and the depth of what public health does and is. In the minds of a lot of people, it's the VD clinic and immunizations, that's it. But it's so much more than that. An example that I wanted to highlight for you was the Ebola crisis. That really challenged us in public health. But we were successful. Working with our partners at Emory, when we got the first patient here in Georgia, who was a physician, there was panic. The population didn't like the idea of the patient being brought into this country and coming to Atlanta. And in fact, one of the restaurants where students and staff at Emory normally had their pizzas put a sign in the window, Emory clientele no longer welcome. That was reaction. Not a good reaction. And then all of a sudden, we knew that we were going to be monitoring anyone coming in from West Africa of the countries that were involved. We had to monitor them for 21 days. Now, how did we know that they were coming in? They may have come from Paris, but their passport would have indicated that they had originated out of one of these countries in West Africa. So every day, every individual that came in, we knew if they were from one of the affected countries. And we had to monitor those people. We worked with Customs and Border Protection, who did the actual temperature checks. If anybody had gotten sick on the flight, we immediately took them in for evaluation. And those that were not sick, we let them go anywhere they wanted to go, but they had to report to us electronically twice a day. We FaceTimed with them. We checked their temperatures. And some 44 of them got sick and had to be evaluated. But not a single one of them had Ebola. We saw everything else, but not Ebola. We had roughly 3,000 individuals that we had to monitor for 21 days. And we did that with a staff of 5 medical epidemiologists. New York City had about twice to 3 times the total number to be monitored, and they had a staff of 400 medical epidemiologists. But they did not use technology like we did. And we were very successful. With the high-risk individuals, we had to quarantine them. And that was another real challenge. You know, we called around. I had 2 of my staff calling every hotel, motel in the Atlanta area for 70 miles around. Not one hotel or motel would accept a high-risk patient that was being monitored. So fortunately, I have an interesting old house. It was built in 1932. It's a little cottage, really. And it's shaped kind of like this. So this side had a sitting room, a bedroom, and a bathroom. Well, that became the O'Neill Hotel. And that's where we put the first patient that had to be monitored who was high risk. She was a nurse. We finally were able to rent a house, and in 1 year, we paid in rent what that house had originally sold for. And we also had to guarantee that it would be totally sanitized after we'd finished. That was another $35,000. So the Ebola crisis challenged us in a lot of ways, but one of the ways was interesting, and we modeled this on what we did with the trauma system. We regionalized care throughout the state, and we provided a transport system so that there was access throughout the entire state of Georgia. I was afraid that Emory would get too many patients at the same time and not be able to treat them. So we convinced 4 other hospitals to become treatment centers. We held the same standards that Emory had for those other hospitals. And we did site visits, and we designated them level 1 treatment centers. We designated 9 hospitals as assessment hospitals. And they were geographically spread through the state in a very fair fashion. Because if somebody was in Savannah and they got sick, we didn't want them to have to come to Atlanta to be evaluated. As I said, those 44 people that had to be evaluated, not a one of them turned out to have Ebola. But we saw viral disease, we saw malaria, we saw diabetic ketoacidosis, we saw a stroke, we saw 3 problems with pregnancy and bleeding, but no Ebola. And we didn't have those people come back to Atlanta. We had them go to one of those assessment facilities, of which we had those 9. A regionalized system. We also selected 19 different EMS services and provided special training and special equipment so that they could transport a patient from one level to another. Say a patient in an assessment center turned out to be positive for Ebola, then they had to be moved to a treatment center. And we had to do that safely because we couldn't put the EMS folks at risk. So a lot of special training, a lot of special equipment. And we had universal ability to dispatch those ambulances anywhere in the state of Georgia. We have never done that for any other situation, not even when we had the Olympics here in Atlanta in '96. But it worked beautifully for the Ebola crisis. And that regionalized system still exists. We still have those special centers for dealing with highly infectious diseases. And it's not just Ebola that we have to be concerned about. We don't know what the next one may be, but we're planning to be ready for it, whatever it is in Georgia. So that regionalized way of care has been something that public health has been responsible for. And the legislature, a year ago, gave us another one. They said, we want regionalized cardiac care, and we want it modeled on the trauma system. So we have level 1 centers that do open heart. We have level 2 that do primarily PCIs. And that's working well. And who designates those centers? Public health. So there's an intersection there. If you go into cardiology in Georgia, you're going to be working with public health too. If you're a cardiac surgeon, you're going to be working with public health. That's another intersection there. So no matter what you do, you're going to have these intersections, professional or personal. The other thing that was one of Dr. Fitzgerald's priorities, and I would challenge each of you to look into your backgrounds and see if you don't find intersection here. And that's the opioid crisis which I think more appropriately should be called the addictive disease crisis. The number of deaths from overdoses now in Georgia exceeds the number from car crashes. And we in public health are responsible for trying to turn that around. Public health's responsibility was to craft the overall state strategy and present it to the governor. We pulled together 400 people to write the strategy, put it together in a 197-page document. And I took a look at it and I said, there's no way the governor's going to read this. I want a short version. So our team got together and they shortened it down to 40 pages, a glossy, beautiful glossy. I said, yeah, I want the legislators, I want the governor to see this. They don't have time to read even 40 pages. I want a one-pager. And we got it. The other thing that public health is responsible for related to that is the PDMP, Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. It used to be with drugs and narcotics, but it was moved by the legislature to public health, primarily because public health has the ability to deal with data. We do it all the time. We collect data, we aggregate data, we analyze data, and then we respond to what the data tells us. Now, my concern is we're really cutting down on prescription opioids. What we've seen in some states is that as those opioids that are legal are cut out, the shift is to heroin or methamphetamine or who knows what else. So we can't think just opioids. We got to think addictive disease. And it's a crisis. It's a crisis in the United States and here in Georgia and across the world in some other areas too. If you look in your family, you look far enough back, you'll find somebody that's had an issue with addiction. In my family, it's a nephew. And he was resuscitated with naloxone. So he's still alive. And he's now been clean for 2 years with treatment. But it's a chronic disease. And there will be relapses. And we have to be prepared to deal with that. And state strategy in Georgia recognizes that. And we recognize that we've got to get rid of the stigma of addictive disease and think about it as a disease rather than a moral issue. And public health is at the forefront trying to achieve that. I want to close with what Dr. Skelton had mentioned to you related to what ended up with our regionalized way of taking care of trauma. Because there was a story behind that Dr. Skelton heard me tell, and many folks have heard me tell, because we went around the state back in, I think it was 2007, talking about developing a trauma system and getting state funding to support it. And I told that story to many, many audiences. And I think it changed some minds. And it, I think, was responsible for some very important legislation. And that's where public health comes into developing health policy. But that situation with the 2-year-old happened on Christmas Eve. And it was a very warm Christmas Eve for Georgia. It was around 7:30 in the evening. The family had just finished dinner. And the mother remembered that she wanted something for stuffing the stockings with. And she turned to her husband and she said, oh, gosh, I forgot to get it. Can you run down to the 7-Eleven and see if you can get this, this, and this? Unbeknownst to the dad, the 2-year-old had gone out to play. And he was playing behind the car. And the dad had no idea he was there and he backed over the child. The child had CPR in progress for about 25 minutes before he arrived in the emergency department. And it did not look good at all, but you know, with a child, you give them every chance. You don't stop. So we didn't call it, we kept on. and on. We kept CPR going for 3 hours. And everybody was hot and sweaty and finally just exhausted to the point they could do no more. And at that point, I pronounced the baby. And by then, the belly had really swollen up. I think probably from a spleen injury, liver injury, who knows, internal bleeding, because I had not been able to get a surgeon. So I went out to meet the parents. And the mother had this anxious look as I walked into the room. And I said, "I'm so sorry, but I've just pronounced your baby." And she reached up and she started pounding on my chest and she said, "No, no, doctor, you can't stop, because I know God wouldn't take my baby on Christmas Eve." Those were the haunting words that have plagued me now for 40 years. And that's why I felt it was so important to develop a trauma system, so that we could get a surgeon in a short time when it was necessary. And I'm happy to say now that with pediatrics, in 95% of major injury, they can be in a pediatric center within the golden hour, or in some instances, the platinum half hour. Those comments that we took around the state talking about the value of a trauma system ended up with legislation that created a trauma commission and regular funding to support it. And that's where public health has the role of creating policy, health policy. It's not enough to treat just the one individual. But you've got to look at what is it that we could do to prevent so many of these tragedies from happening in the first place, and what can we do, what can our policymakers do under the Gold Dome to create the laws that will recognize the value of those being in policy. And we do that all the time. So I ask you to look at those intersections. Whatever you go into, doesn't matter. I think it was really interesting. I believe it was 2007. Whoopi Goldberg gave a talk, the commencement talk also. And she said, very appropriately, and I think it pertains today too, she said, if you're willing to stand for what you believe, you don't need my advice, because you'll be able to handle whatever happens. And that's why none of you graduates need my advice. You're willing to stand for what you believe. You're willing to follow your passion. And the passion of medicine is extraordinary. And society is better for it. And you will be really well rewarded. And I don't mean necessarily monetarily, but the rewards of doing what we're charged to do as physicians are extraordinary. And it doesn't matter what your field is. Follow your passion. And thank you for what you're doing already. I wish you well. I know that you're going to succeed in so many ways. And I think you'll be extraordinarily proud that you finished and got your degree at Trinity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill. What an example of a life well lived for our graduates. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Now, please welcome Dr. Linda Atkinson, Dean of Trinity School of Medicine and Provost of Trinity Medical Sciences University, for the presentation of our graduates and the conferring of their degrees.
Wow. Thank you, President Wilson. It is indeed my pleasure to be here and with these students. Trinity School of Medicine strives to equip our future physicians with the skill and the knowledge to navigate the complexities and uncertainties that lie ahead in healthcare. This afternoon, we celebrate 45 graduates who have completed rigorous years of study. And as I thought about that word rigorous and years of study, I know that there were some days that were just downright hard. Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Medicine please stand? The members of our faculty, those in St. Vincent and those in Baltimore, have evaluated these candidates and have endorsed all of them as worthy of earning the degree Doctor of Medicine. President Wilson, Chancellor Skelton, and members of the Board of Trustees and honored guests, on behalf of the faculty, it is with great pride, great pride, that I present to you the Trinity School of Medicine, class of 2019.
I love this part. With the approval of the dean that you've heard, the approval of the faculty, the approval of the trustees of Trinity School of Medicine, I am invested with the authority to pronounce each of you Doctor of Medicine. Congratulations, doctors!
Dr. Francis Jack, Associate Dean for Admissions and Student Affairs, will announce the graduates. The graduates will receive their hoods from Dr. Jamil Ibrahim, Associate Professor of Medicine, and Dr. Cornelius Musara, Clinical Chair and Associate Professor of Surgery. Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Medicine please come forward? Second row, you may be seated.
Dr. Christiana Abeles. Dr. Miroto Bove. Dr. Brian Birdsong. Dr. Colby Carr. Dr. Katie Carson. Dr. Earl Clark II. Dr. Sarah Cook Davis. Dr. Johnny Dang. Dr. Emma Damon. Dr. Christopher Denham. Dr. Megan Deneen. Dr. Victoria Drozd. Congrats. Dr. Nadia Faraji, quoted by Dr. Ashra Zadia. Dr. Catherine Gagan. Dr. Crystal Galai. Dr. Wubert Gabarha Hewitt. Dr. Jamin Graham, quoted by Dr. Ron Graham. Dr. Shimon Gomes. Dr. Crystal Jade Horton. Dr. Jennifer Heatwell. Dr. Christopher Hogan, hooded by Dr. Banerjee. Dr. Jennifer Hutchison. Dr. Vikirana Kamaki, hooded by Dr. Ozols. Dr. Jeanette Kusi. Dr. Emma Mancini. Dr. Jordat Massoud, hooded by Dr. Massoud. Dr. Asia McIntosh. Dr. Victoria Wen. Dr. Calvin Pilbeam, hooded by Dr. Robinson. Dr. Ronif Richards. Dr. Daniel Rode, hooded by Dr. Ozol. Dr. Eric Rodriguez. Dr. Connor Rohrbach. Dr. Erica Smith, hooded by Dr. Smith. Dr. Mackenzie Thompson. Dr. Renee Torres. Dr. Rhonda K. Trusty, hooded by Dr. Walter Gabriel. Dr. Atina Tudino. Dr. Anthony Vaccarello. Dr. Stacy Webb. Dr. John Whalen. Dr. Margaret Williamson.
Dr. Mark Zubrow, Senior Associate Dean for Clinical Clerkships, will lead the graduates in the Oath of Geneva, which is approved by the World Health Organization.
Thank you. Congratulations to all graduates. Please rise. And any physicians in the auditorium who wish to take the oath, please feel free to stand and read along with us. Just for a brief history, this oath was created in 1947 after World War II and some of the atrocities committed by the medical profession. It has been modified 6 times and is now considered an international standard. So if you would all please follow along with me. I solemnly pledge to consecrate my life to the service of humanity. I will give to my teachers the respect and gratitude that is their due. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity. The health of my patient will be my first consideration. I will respect the secrets that are confided in me even after the patient has died. I will maintain by all the means in my power the honor and the noble traditions of the medical profession. My colleagues will be my sisters and brothers. I will not permit considerations of age, disease or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I will not use my medical knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Congratulations.
Graduates, you are to be commended for your many, many, many accomplishments. You vowed to look with respect and esteem upon all those who have taught you your art. Some of your faculty are here today, and they participated in the oath along with you. They have dedicated themselves to teaching and to mentoring you. Your parents, your partners, your children, and friends also served as your teachers. They supported and cheered you along the way, every day of your journey. So without your family and without your friends, you would not be where you are today. You would not be here. So please take a moment to show them your appreciation. Will everyone in the audience please rise? Physicians, please turn and face the audience. Families and friends of the class of 2019, please give these new physicians a round of well-deserved applause. Thank you. You may be seated.
We are now at the conclusion of our 2019 commencement. Graduates, at the conclusion of the recessional, you are asked to gather back at the stage for a group photo. Family and friends of the graduates are asked to keep the aisle clear so we can have the professional photographer take the official group pictures. Now, if everyone will please rise for the benediction by Dr. Daniel Eller and remain standing for the recessional. Following the recessional, please join us for the celebratory reception in the Grand Salon to the right of the exit.
Let's pray. Father, we are inspired by all that we have seen and heard today. We thank you for all the blessings you've given us. I thank you for these new physicians. I pray that they will dedicate the rest of their lives and commit to a lifetime of learning, commit to a lifetime of passion for what they do, commit to a lifetime of compassion for those they are serving. And I pray that you will help all of us today to rededicate ourselves to serve in whatever capacity it is that you have given us. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.